Hey everyone, welcome to The Grind. If you've just joined us, we just started our Christmas series, The Miracle, and we are on week 2 of the message. Sam just shared last week about the miracle of the message. And basically, the idea is that Jesus is the miracle, he is the message. So I have a message, you have a message. You know, the thing that he got us to do at the beginning of service. And so anyways, this message of Jesus is something that has been foretold like multiple times throughout the Old Testament. And I was just thinking like, has there been a consistent message that you heard your whole life, besides the whole idea like, yes, Jesus is king and everything, but like something that you're taught, or like a consistent theme or repeated theme that has happened to like, show up in your life?
I got one. In Cantonese, it says 錢唔係萬能，但係冇錢就萬萬不能. So the literal translation could be, money cannot do all things, but without money, many things one cannot do.
It's true. So many things I want to do, but it requires cash. It really does.
For me, it's something more of something God told me, I guess. It's kind of like words of the season kind of vibe. Yeah. And for me, it was like it's been echoing everywhere, which is like he is sufficient. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of like, I feel it's just that a lot of my struggles, that statement is technically the answer, but then now I need to use that to fit in for each problem. Yeah.
I see. Actually, going back to the money thingy the money statement that you brought up, like, so how did that come about? I guess you hearing that all the time.
From internet, from
people
relatives.
Around you? Oh, okay.
Yeah, people around me also.
I see. Well, a repeated theme in my life was like, how come you can't get A+ when you have A? Kidding.
Even till now.
Nah. I mean, that was definitely, it was a consistent theme. It's like, you can do better. This is not good enough. You're the oldest child, therefore you should know better. Yeah, you should know better. That's a consistent theme.
Wow.
But jokes aside, obviously, you've grown out of that. And, even though I am the older child and I should know better. But anyways, life happens. But we carry on. But I would say I noticed that like a repeated theme that does come up in my life is like, oh yeah, I'm like a communicator, or I think the idea of like pioneering also comes up in my life too, just because like I find myself like being the first to do like many things as well, like whether it be the first class of Singapore International School when it was first established. I was part of the pioneering year, or that shows how old I am. Yes.
It's okay. I'm the first in DSE as well, so.
Oh, okay. Wow, we've all first. What are the first for you, Dom?
Moving on.
Yeah. So, and then like the first in my mom's side of the family to go to university. Yeah, so I think it's just like being the first. And then sometimes in my dreams as well, I have dreams where I'm like the one who's like in the forefront to do stuff. So I don't know, I think the theme of pioneering has been somewhat consistent in my life. So anyways, going back to the whole theme of Jesus, right? I think in the Old Testament, as mentioned, like, basically there was foretold that like there's gonna be a savior, a Messiah, but obviously no one knows that it's gonna come in the form of this man named Jesus. And so so then obviously it's come to pass, Jesus happened, so our message is Jesus. And now how the message of Jesus is delivered is different. So I think back in the day with the Old Testament, it's like, that's through prophets or whatever it is, but now is now. So how have we seen the method of delivering Jesus, this message, evolve over time?
I guess you could say a while ago it was very, very popular in TV shows or in these big stadiums where they host this huge evangelical conferences, and you have so much music and then so much preaching, and then they directly ask you, do you believe in Jesus? Yeah, come up now.
Crusades.
Yeah. But then now I don't know if it's
effective,
for better or worse. It's now about like this personal relationship with the non-believer, and first being friends with them and like convince them with your action rather than hard sell.
Yeah, true. Like, because when we see people on the streets with flyers, we already like move to the side, right? We're like, I feel kind of bad, right? Like, there are those charities. Okay, I think, in the MTR, right? I think now they changed it up where, when they have charities there, they actually put like a little tape square around them so they can't step out of the box. Yeah, because before they can wander around and approach anyone, right? But I think now the rule is that they have to stay within that tape, on the floor. So as long as they stand there and then they're like, oh, hey, I can't come outside. Can you come here? I was like, sorry, bye bye.
I haven't seen this.
You haven't seen it? Yeah, I've seen it. That's why I was like, that's why I know like they can't, because they say like, oh, we can't step out of this box, to approach you. Can you come to us? I was like,
No.
sorry, bye. And yeah, so I just feel so, guilty that, when they're asking, do you want to save the children? It's like my heart's like, yes, I want to save children, but I don't have money for this right now. So, bye.
I feel for me, the way I see it, I feel it transitioned from like what God has done to what Jesus is doing now, and then I think what's really happening nowadays is how we can be like Jesus. I think like when you said this question, like I feel that it's the message is delivered different, but the message is like this consistently the same. One example that really comes to mind is this movie of the Jesus movement, right?
Yeah.
Right. And when I was watching that, I was like, oh wow, it's so powerful for then. And then I was like, at the same time, I was saying like, wow, so much of that is so relevant to today. Like the same message, same application can be applied to today, right? But it's still the same message, I feel. And so that's why I feel that. And then if you look at that movie, it's really about like how we can be like Jesus at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you talk about like the whole like big conferences or crusades say like if you want to Jesus, like come to the front, that kind of thing, right? And I think there definitely is moments for that. There are moments for that. I mean, I've been to stuff like that, and I know like it really feels like definitely you feel the presence there. Like, I may have mentioned this on Grime before, but like years ago when I was in in high school, still there was this thing called Passion Generation, and that met in like the middle of Central. I mean, I don't think anything can meet in the Central right now, like that, because they were meet outside, I think, Statue Square, that area, right? I mean, that is now, I don't think people are allowed to meet there like and such. And I just remember like being in that moment, and then I remember the Passion of the Christ like trailer was played on the screens, and I was in tears. I was like, this is my Lord and Savior like being whipped in front of people. I mean, try that now. I don't know if it's gonna draw the same attention or same like attraction, but so I think how this message of Jesus is delivered has to evolve. Personal, one-on-one, like, because I think everyone is now withdrawing into the whole like like individual sphere of like, oh, this is my phone, I'm just gonna look at it and that's it. So I feel definitely it is gonna evolve over time.
And I feel like nowadays is the most spiritual yet also at the same time non-spiritual kind of generation.
Because like you talk about like, oh, people being demonized, you're like, nah, I don't believe in that. But then if you talk about like dark forces or just like negative energy, they're like, so it's just like now it's just almost like different packaging. It's like they believe in the same thing, it's just like they don't equate demonic forces with negative energy, but actually it's kind of like almost the same thing. So it's almost like, how do we package Jesus in a way that makes sense to people, right? Like we don't want to also like dumb down Jesus, but then we also want to speak the language of, I guess, the times, which is what I guess Jesus did with the parables and everything. So that is definitely the challenge, because like 5 years from now, how we talk about Jesus might evolve. How we minister to people also might evolve too. So it is a ever-changing world. And I think one thing that Sam also talked about was like how he him and his he was talking about how like his student, like he's a teacher, right? And obviously he mentioned two things that you can't talk about in school, or at least it's an unsaid no is politics and religion, which is very fair, right? As a teacher, you also spend like, I would say 80% of like students spend 80% of your time with you, right? Like, so you do have a substantial like place in your life. Anyway, so how like he was talking about how his student was asking like, okay, can you hear God's voice, which is an interesting conversation, definitely an opportunity to share Jesus at that point, right? So let's talk about that a little bit. Like, so when God speaks, it is truth, and and talks about how it does come to pass. Like that's the whole power of the Lord's word, power of the Lord's voice. So let's talk a little bit about how does God speak to us personally.
Well, like Sam, I also don't hear
Yeah.
an audible voice, but I believe through the word, through looking out at the creation, I can hear God.
For me personally, I think as I was being taught in like the prophetic, I feel everyone. I like to believe that God speaks to everyone in that person's best way. Like for example, I'm a visual learner and I love visuals, seeing that I'm a photographer and videographer. So I think most of my words from God, whether it's to bless me or to pass on to someone, it's like 90% it's like photos or images. And then always comes with an interpretation later. Also, like when you said just now, like when God speaks, it is truth and it comes to pass. It comes to pass is very highlighted for me because I think one characteristic of the way God speaks, it's very intentional. There's this this term, I think, this narrative principle called Chekhov's gun in film. Have you heard about this? You know about it? No.
Something like show don't tell.
Let's see.
Anyways, elaborate.
Chekhov's gun is basically it's a narrative principle where an element introduced into a story first seems unimportant but will later take on great significance. Meaning, like, if in other words, is that if you show it, it better like happen. Like because Chekhov's gun is, if you show a gun, the gun better fire. You know what I mean? So I think that I like to see that as God's character. Like when he tells us something, it's so intentional. There is great purpose for him when he says this, that it could be relevant to today or it could be relevant for the future. So yeah, that's why I like that, how it comes to pass.
Comes to pass. Yeah, because I mean, sometimes when you say, like, then you also kind of like need to filter, like, is this your heart's desire? Is this the Lord speaking? Is this your will? Is it the Lord's will? And then when it says it comes to pass, is it really what you want to come to pass or what the Lord wants to come to pass?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it does. I mean, I think sometimes your voice can overtake that of God's, and sometimes sometimes I'm like, Lord, I don't know what I'm hearing right now. Is this your voice? Is this my voice? But if not, help me just navigate this wisely. I think, but I think something that, if anything, that when we hear God's voice is that it needs to line up with the word. So if you're hearing voices that says like, you suck, and you're never gonna make it, yeah, that ain't the Lord. That's you or the enemy, one or the other, not the Lord. I think also the Lord is practical as well. So I think something to bear in mind to you as well. But like for me, like hearing God's voice just comes in a form. Like I don't think I've heard the audible voice of God, but I feel like maybe that was one time I did, which was basically when I was like dead asleep and I felt like I needed to wake up. And then suddenly I just jerked up and it said, and I felt like a voice in my head said, wake up. And I was like, okay, I gotta go. I don't know, it was for something important. But yeah, either the Lord has spoken to me in dreams. I think that's definitely one of them. Pictures, words, just like, maybe impression. But usually because I'm like a communicator, right? And also like a storyteller. So sometimes it comes in the form of a story. So when I'm sometimes sharing the word to someone, it sometimes is a story and I want to make it snappy, but the story needs to be unfolded. So it sometimes takes a little longer, but anyways, yeah, but the idea is that, I think God speaks to us. We have a message, you have a message, and the idea of this message is Jesus and kind of inviting people to come to him, and the whole idea of salvation. And I think Sam pretty much detailed it quite clearly, is that salvation is an invitation to be part of God's family. It's also a process. And so, yeah, basically today he's speaking to us by his son. It's because of Jesus that we're able to have this, union with God. And now we are to speak to others about his son. So, let's talk about the power of words. Sometimes we think that our words that we say was just like, but actually there's so much more to it.
Yeah. I remember a time where we were taught about, the word, power of the tongue,
Yeah.
And I remember back then where we have so many sayings that, it has meaning to what we want to say, but then, like, for example, like something happened and, oh, I'm dead, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember there was a time where I'll be like, oh, I'm dead. But not really. No, I'm not. Just expressions.
Or like touch wood, this isn't gonna happen.
Yeah. But yeah, I remember like in HKSSM that there was we did this practice about like being loose with the tongue, I feel. Like it's especially the unintentional ones that naturally slip out that we need to be cautious about, because like, I guess it's like the whole, like if you take the spirituality out of it, it's like the whole sticks and stones may break my bones, but words, I don't know how this finishes.
Me will never break me.
Is it?
Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's usually the typical saying.
Isn't there one that like words are like worse than?
Yeah. But then there's also a version where sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will destroy you from within. No, just kidding. I don't know what the.
We'll
Let me
be right
find it.
back.
Yep, sticks and stones may break my bones, but this is a song. But your words, they really kill me.
Whoa.
It's called Sticks
Taylor
and Stones
Swift?
songs
Oh, no.
by Baby Shambles. But yeah, I mean, there are definitely two versions. Yeah, Sticks and Stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me, or they'll really kill you. And I feel like the second is more true, because they leave a lasting damage. Either they build you up or leave a lasting damage. And I don't. Have you guys had like phrases said over you that you kind of like believed it for the longest time and actually left a lasting damage for a season?
I feel like I could say yes, but I don't remember what they were.
Good, praise God, you've been healed.
I mean, I know that there's some like, other insulting ones that I cannot say here. Those ones stung. But I mean, like, as you get older, that it's like it doesn't have much meaning, and so in maturity, you can just easily disregard it, right? But I feel there's a lot of times where words have come in a sort of a lie, and then you kind of start believing that lie, I guess. And you it's basically a self-fulfilling prophecy that you just declare over yourself. Yeah.
Something like the nagging thoughts of doubts and words like, oh, you're never gonna make it through this. Yeah, I mean even in I think Revelations, when God appeared and his tongue is like a two-edged sword. I think that's a very powerful image of like your words are super powerful as a weapon. And I think like sometimes we also fall into the trap of saying, oh, why does XYZ negative things always happen to me, but then you're kind of like prophesying over yourself, so you need to refuse that. And even like non-Christians, they also like self-confident themselves. Like I remember like Lightning McQueen, when he always stayed in the
speed.
Well, the term will be whatever you believe will manifest into the universe or something like that. So whatever you speak, you will manifest.
I'm
in the universe.
successful.
Yeah, I think there's I think words of power to it. I believe this because I'm a plant killer. All right, like every plant that I grow somehow just dies, right? Succulents are supposed to be alive, right? They're supposed to be the easiest plant to care for, but yet somehow they die at my hands. And so I tried this where so I had this plant, and then that was given to me in 2020 as a farewell gift, and then it was like very tiny, and then I wrote on the side of the pot, I said, "Don't stop believing." Like, like believing as in BELEAFING. Yeah, so And it is still alive to this very day, 4 years later, and it's growing. So I believe there is power in the words that you write as well. And also I tell the plant, like, come on, plant, you got this.
Wow,
You know?
encouragement.
Yeah, I did speak. And also I put
Did you
it,
even play music to it?
I do play music at home, but also it's facing some plants across my neighbors. So maybe it has community of plants. So because it does grow towards them. So I'm like, you know, plants need community too. They can't survive on their own. So, yes, that is what I believe. So, but yeah, I know like one of the things, you know, that I definitely battled growing up is you're not good enough. So kind of like speaking that over myself, even like it's never explicitly say like you're not good enough. I think it's just more like the comparison games, the you could do better, so you just have this, you know. So, and I mean, when I say I have completely like grown out of it, I don't. The answer is no. I still, you know, do struggle with that from time to time. Like, you know, I'm not good enough for this role. There are better people. Like, why am I picked? You know, or like I'm never gonna make it. Right? Like, so it definitely has like, you know, I'm not like so self-secure that, you know, I can overcome all things and, you know, just push that thought to the side. But it does, you know, pop up from time to time, and so it's like, how do you handle that? And I think it's also, it takes a level of like security as well, when, you know, when you have people come up to you and say like, oh, you looks not, when I say people, I mean like, you know, relatives, right? And then I've definitely had a relative that told me like, oh, you look so much better if you had surgery on your chin. So, and again, I think I've mentioned this before. So it's like, yeah, it's like, what do you do with information that like that, right? You can either like hold fast to it and be like, and become insecure, and or you just be like, I guess I'll just grow thicker skin, and, you know.
Yeah, some relatives that I rarely see, and then when we meet, they would say things like, well, why are you so thin? Have you not eaten anything? And I would think like, why are you so fat?
Yeah, like the older generation sometimes they like, I don't know why they always make a comment about weight. That's like the consistent thing that they always say. Like some feature that you have. Like, I know they're trying to break the ice, but like sometimes it also doesn't help. But anyways, we so it's just like, how can we use our words to speak to others about Jesus? I think that's something to think about. Yes, we talked about you know, how Jesus, you know, sharing about Jesus has evolved over time, whether it go from like a crusade to like a personal thing. But again, going back to the thing that Sam says, I have a message, you have a message, and understand that, you know, the words that we speak can bring life to the people in our lives when we speak Jesus. I mean, that whole song, right? Like, I speak Jesus. I think that's a powerful song. So yeah, something to bear in mind. There is power in our words.
It's like the movie The Help. You is kind.
You is smart.
You're important. I mean, like, yeah. I mean, that indirectly shows you how good, like, how powerful words of affirmation can be. And if it's that effective in the positive, it can be equally effective in the negative.
Exactly.
I feel. Because like I was looking at Sam's sermon notes because I was curious.
Yeah.
You know, he had one segment where he was like, I think he was talking about the Genesis, and a lot of it was said like God said, He said, right? And he highlighted all of it. And I was like, wow, actually, God declares a lot. Yeah. Right. And I feel that kind of just puts importance of like he's showing how powerful the power of tongue is, right? And I know, and I guess we're trying to like strive to be. Strive for a life of godliness, right? Like, I think that is kind of like one of the things that we should do, right? We just need to be really intentional with what we say. You know, don't let our tongue be loose. Yeah. Which goes back to one of my favorite Bible verses is like, take captive every thought. You know, same thing. Watch that tongue. Yeah, watch that tongue. Hold it back. I think it was also in James as well. It's like the tongue is like, you know, small rudder, and then, you know, can cause like a lot of damage. But yeah, with that being said, it's like, God spoke the world into existence, and the same spirit lives within us. So you never know that what you speak can also call out the gold and speak life to people. So yeah, let's watch our tongue. Let's you know, bring the message of Jesus and speak life to the people all around us.
Well, that's that we have for today. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.